quite lost for a minute. Don't know if I smoked here. Yeah. By the 1940s, over half the population of Great Britain over the age of 16 smoked cigarettes. Some children were much younger than 16 when they started smoking. Although the legal age to smoke was 16, kids could always buy cigarettes through vending machines on street corners and railway stations at the time. Or so I have been told. I'm only 50 years old. I don't know everything about history. Cancer was first diagnosed by Hippocrates 460 BC to 370 BC in ancient Greece. He described several different types of cancer. Karkinos, the Greek word for crab, also known as carcinoma, describing and drawing pictures of visible tumours to the skin, nose and breasts. It was against Greek tradition to cut open a body. The first operation to remove internal tumours did not occur until until the mid to late 19th century. In 1950, there were only 18,318 deaths from cancer in the UK. I'll say that again. In 1950, there were only 18,318 deaths from cancer in the UK. The population of the United Kingdom of Great Britain was approximately 50 million people, around about 25 million smokers. If my mathematics is correct, 50% of 50 is 25. The first electric cigarette was invented in the USA by Herbert A. Gilbert in 1963, but the idea proved unpopular to the general public and production was halted. 1965 saw the banning of cigarette advertisements on television. Cigar and rolling tobacco advertisements were not illegal until 1991, soon after the final Hamlet cigar TV commercial. In the early 1970s, cigarette government health warnings were first introduced, printed on one side of every packet of cigarettes and tobacco. In 1972, the average price for a packet of 20 cigarettes was approximately 25 pence, although to be fair, the average living wage was only £32. By 1974, 45% of Britons still smoked cigarettes. 52% of men and 41% of women. Approximately 23 million residents of the United Kingdom still smoked tobacco. In 1975, there were approximately 111,000 deaths from cancer in Britain, although there were only 5% less smokers since 1950, about 23,750,000. There were around 75% more people dying from cancer. It was still socially acceptable for patients and staff, including cleaners, porters, ambulance drivers, nurses and doctors, to smoke in hospital wards, waiting rooms, ambulances, doctors' surgeries, and even operating theatres in the year 1976. Many hospital patients even kept ashtrays on their bedside cabinet in case they wanted to smoke in bed. In 1977, the government introduced new legislation limiting smoking in hospitals to the waiting rooms. In 1978, the average price for a packet of 20 cigarettes was approximately 55 pence. By the year 1980, cigarette prices had risen to an astounding 70 pence for a packet of 20. Larger health warnings were introduced in 1981. Cigarettes seriously damages your health. Printed in big black letters on a white background on the side of every packet of tobacco and cigarettes. By the way, in the United States of America, which is in fact a rather larger continent than Britain, cancer deaths have risen from 200,000 in 1950 to 600,000 in the year 2010, a rise of 200%. Yet, only 15% of the population still smoke tobacco, approximately 36.5 million people. How good is your mathematics? Mind you, when you consider the population of the USA, that really is not that many deaths. In the 1950s, over 45% of the population smoked cigarettes, a decline in smoking of 66%. By 1982, the proportion of non-smoking cancer patients who had never smoked a fag was 43% in the United Kingdom. Source NHS Information Centre. 44% of the people in the UK still smoked cigarettes, and many smokers were quitting their filthy habit. In 1986, cigarette advertisements were banned from cinemas in the UK. After the big fire inside London's King's Cross tube station in 1987, tobacco advertisements and smoking on underground trains became illegal. The fire was claimed to have been started by somebody's cigarette butt. But as every smoker already knows, a cigarette usually goes out within a minute or two. And isn't King's Cross station made out of concrete? How could one single cigarette butt start a fire on a piece of cement? The fire was probably caused by an electrical fault, more likely than a cigarette, don't you think? Which thousands of people would have trampled over within a second or two. Cigarettes cost £1.65 for a packet of 20 in Britain in the year 1990. The tax on a packet of fags was approximately £1.20. By the year 2000, the price... by the year 2000, the price of a packet of cigarettes had risen to about £4. £3.8 of the cost given to the taxman, hopefully to pay for the National Health Service, I wish. Only 20% of the people living in the United Kingdom still smoked cigarettes, approximately 12 million smokers. (2003). And cigarettes now have to carry a 30% written health warning on the front of every packet of smokes. Cigarettes cause fatal cancer, cigarettes kill you, etc., etc., or words to that effect. A Chinese pharmacist, Hon Lik, invented the modern electronic cigarette, e-cig, in the year 2003. They were first released in China in 2004. In the year 2005, there were 172,570 deaths from cancer, and 53% of the population had never smoked a cigarette. The government introduced new tobacco regulations, making it illegal to advertise any cigarette product or tobacco at a sporting event, such as motor racing, the Olympic Games, cricket, tennis, darts or football matches. In June 2006, smoking in any public establishment was banned in Quebec and Ontario in Canada. The same laws were introduced to Queensland, Australia in July and in December the government enforced the law nationwide. Electronic cigarettes, e-cigs, first arrived onto the European and UK markets in 2006. They were not sold in America until 2007. Come on, go to the toilet. There were 174,470 deaths from cancer in 2006. Compare that to the 1950s. 18,318 deaths from cancer. 156,152 more cases of cancer than 50 years ago. That is an increase of over 950%. And yet the number of smokers has fallen from 50% to 19% of the UK population. Cigarettes cost about £5 for a packet of 20 in 2007. Remember, by this time wages had increased a hell of a lot over the years. £200 to £300 per week for the average common worker, roughly, in the UK. Sorry. Well, I'm a postman, that's how much I got paid. In the year 2007, the UK government introduced tough new tobacco legislation, making it illegal to smoke on any public transport, from buses and trains to aeroplanes and taxicabs. Smoking in pubs, clubs, restaurants, hotels, theatres, cinemas, art galleries, museums, cafes, casinos, shops, holiday villas and resorts or any other public places was also banned. By the morning of the very next day, no smoking signs were displayed on every window of every office in Britain, on the front of every school gate and university, on the walls of every hall of every block of council flats, and on the doors of every pub. Also in 2007, the age of consent for smoking was raised from 16 to 18. "10,000 pubs closed in 1 year, an average of 25 per week. Approximately 50,000 pubs in Britain have closed in the past 10 years alone." In the year 2008, the government passed a law making it compulsory to display pictorial health warnings on every packet of cigarettes and tobacco. Usually some poor guy with a big red tumour on his neck, a cancer-infected lung, or a corpse in a mortuary, as well as the standard text messages, such as "smoking causes fetal injury and premature birth," "cigarettes cause cancer," "smoking kills." These photographic warnings usually covered about 25% of the cigarette carton or tobacco pouch, and the text covered about another 20%. Australia banned the use of any electronic cigarette that contains nicotine in 2009. E-liquid typically contains propylene, glycerine, glycol, nicotine and flavourings. 2010 saw the introduction of more government legislation. 2010 saw the introduction of more government legislation, making it illegal to display tobacco products in the cigarette kiosks or shops, supermarkets and newsagents. The size of pictorial health warnings was also increased to about 40% of the cigarette carton or tobacco pouch. Many more people had quit smoking by this time, and only 17% of Britons still smoke cigarettes, approximately 7.2 smokers. Official statistics vary from 17 to 19%, depending on available data. A few councils in Britain have even gone so far as to ban cigarette smoking in their town centres, with some smokers having to pay an £80 on-the-spot fine for dropping a fag butt. Cigarette vending machines were banned from pubs, clubs, restaurants and every other establishment in Britain in the year 2011. Government statistics showed that 11% of children who regularly smoke were buying their cigarettes from vending machines. Where did the other 89% get their cigarettes? Probably from their daddy's jacket pocket, mummy's handbag, or the back pocket of your big brother's torn blue denim jeans. Personally, I worked for a family newsagent when I was 14, Barry and Sheila Knowles, selling evening newspapers in an old ramshackle pale blue wooden kiosk for a couple of hours at the gates of the local British Aerospace factory in Hatfield after school from Monday to Friday. By the time I was 15 years old, I was serving behind the counter every Saturday and Sunday morning, looking after the shop. Sheila would bring me toast and a mug of coffee for my breakfast, and my boss Barry and I would close the newsagent at noon. I must admit, although I never stole a penny from my employers, the petrol garage is another story. Although I may have stolen the maybe the occasional penny sweet. I did put a few quid notes into the till, under the counter, so to speak, to pay for the occasional pornographic magazine. Fiesta and Knave, usually. Straight porn. I admit, we had no gay magazines on the shelves, just like most newsagents in the year 2017, hiding them between the covers of the News of the World newspaper. To be honest, from the age of 14 until after we left school at 17, me and my best mate Andy were wanking each other off most evenings of the week. Come to think of it, he was smoking cigarettes before we met. I was 15 or 16 when I bought my first packet of cigarettes in 1982, although I probably had the occasional puff or two of Andy's fag, once or twice before then. A packet of 10 cigarettes only cost about 45 pence at the time, a billion fags ago. I used to put cash into the till at work and stash a packet of cigarettes into my jacket pocket. And in the evening I would go for a long walk and a lovely refreshing smoke. I think I must have tried every brand of cigarette in the newsagent for the next 2 years, from Woodbines, Players No. 6, Benson and Hedges, JPS, Consulate, Moore and Cigarellos, cigar tobacco rolled in cigarette paper, to Hamlet, King Edward and Winston cigars. In the year 2011, smoking was banned from Central Park in New York City in the USA, which is probably one of the most polluted cities in the whole world, with millions of cars pumping out carbon monoxide into the atmosphere every second of every day and night. By 2012, the use of e-cigarettes was about 70,000 vapers in the United Kingdom, rising to 2.5 million in the year 2015. Let's start that for a minute.